what I'd like to do is to just summarise a legal case that I was actually involved in several months ago, in which the Surrey Union Hunt was in one side of the legal argument against some hunt monitors on the other. Indeed, I think it was the Crown Prosecution Service really on one side against some hunt monitors on the other. The hunt monitors were being tried for trespass because they were on land on which a hunt had occurred. It was private property. And a very, very interesting case. And what I was asked to do in this case was to provide an expert statement, because I'm a veterinary specialist in animal welfare, relating to police video footage of a deer, not a fox, not any other animal, of a deer, no dogs, just a deer, that had been injured in the vicinity of the hunt. And there were two stories as to how this deer had been injured. One story was that it had been injured by apparently bushes, a fence or some brambles. And the other story was that it might have been injured by some hunting dogs that were in the vicinity immediately before the deer was injured. So these were the two sides of the story that were being presented really to the court. And I was asked to look at this police video footage and give my opinion as an animal welfare specialist about the nature of the injuries. So I think it's sort of very interesting just as a demonstration of what the veterinary profession in a sense has to offer in terms of giving animal welfare expertise. Certainly those of us that are able to do that. And I think that kind of information can feed into many other scenarios relating to hunting. So I'd like to take this little period of time and actually run through that. I think some aspects of this case are interesting. So there's about 10 minutes of video, 5 to 10 minutes of video I'm going to play first. That's the police footage. There is a deer in there which has some injuries and at the end is killed using a captive bolt pistol. So it is a little bit upsetting to see some of that footage, and it does run for about 5 to 10 minutes. So if anyone is not comfortable, I just thought I would mention that in advance, and if people do certainly have the option of stepping out and coming back in 10 minutes. What I will do after that is just run through some of the statement that I provided, sort of demonstrating, casting a new light on that footage when you look at it through different eyes, when you look at it through the eyes of somebody giving an animal welfare science perspective on what you're about to see. And that's, I think, what was of interest to the court.
By. Time is 13:12.
It's lying in that ditch now. 6-7 hounds. I filmed all of it. It's got attacked by the hound. I got the hounds off it. It's injured beyond reproach now.
Okay, wait a minute. You're talking to me now, so I need to see what's going on, okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, all right?
Yeah. It's just down in that ditch.
I just climbed over it.
Ran after it, pinned it, ripping it apart. I come running through. This. I trespassed, trying to save that deer. Unfortunately, the deer was getting savage by the time I got here. I could see they were doing something. These lot are laughing and joking about it. It's all on film. I've got the whole thing.
Okay.
Now they're going to have it dispatched.
Have you got it on film?
Yeah, I'll put it.
Can you show it me on film? Are they encouraging the hounds or are they calling the hounds off?
Well, they're not calling them off.
Well, are they encouraging the hounds?
We'll look back on this. We'll look back on this and see. It's hard to say. They know what they're doing. They know exactly what words to use and what words not to use to get themselves liable, don't they?
Well, it happens all around, doesn't it?
I know. Well, yeah, I'm not disputing it, don't. I'm not disputing that at all.
You know, everybody knows which words to use and which not to, so... there have been a number of directions given under section 69 to leave the land. You are obviously a trespasser at the moment, so we just need to ascertain whether you're disrupting a lawful activity or not, but that doesn't actually matter.
I don't think I am disrupting a legal activity.
Okay, it doesn't actually matter, in so much that actually the officer who's giving you the direction can have an honestly held belief.
And who's that then?
And if there are, whichever officer who's giving you the direction...
Who's telling me to leave the land? The police?
What we're going to do is we're going to have a serious conversation with you in relation to the welfare of this animal.
Can we do it out of the way of them, please?
Well no, because you required them to talk in front of you, and now... So
okay,
I think it's only fair, don't you?
Fair enough.
Okay, so what we agree is that the welfare of the animal is paramount. Would you suggest that's right? These gentlemen need to get in there to be able to get hold of the animal to assess its well-being, okay? So they believe that it was trapped into this hole here as it was trying to come through and it's got trapped into the hedge there.
I've got nothing. The bloodstains are all up there as well.
Okay, but while we're chatting, we need to sort the animal out. Okay, so they're not prepared to get in there until you've gone. So why don't we just walk you down to the end down here? we can get the animal out. We will video everything that they're doing. We will ensure that it's all done.
Okay.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's good stuff.
if we have to resort to, we'll ask you to leave the land, okay?
I'm saying yes.
Okay, which is excellent. Which is excellent. I believe you were in here to disrupt lawful activity, which was the trail hunt. I'm asking you to leave Luckin's farm land. I am the senior officer present, being acting sergeant 2058. You can't return to this land within 3 months of today. That is the direction under the legislation, just so we know where we stand on the law, all right? I don't want to be an arse about it, but that's where the law stands. Okay, so if I can ask you to move with this officer to the nearest available location to leave the land, and we will oversee the animal welfare. Trust me, I'm a country person as well, all right?
Yeah,
so
I'm as well. I live in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a look at this animal with these people. So if these officers... Okay, so this officer will stay with the video camera, and we'll go out of the copse. Excellent, thank you very much. Time is now 13:15, going on standby. Time is now
13:18 hours.
Got it, man. You alright? Hey? Bad. You want to do or not? Good man? No. No, it's not bad. But put him in the field. If he runs, he runs.
I think put him back up in there.
All right.
Come on. George, just see on the camera, look, it's just a slight...
All we've got is a slight tear on the inside of the leg. Yeah, just a couple of, obviously, from brambles or whatever, the wire. Yeah, has cut it, but, you know, there's nothing, no broken legs.
Okay.
Probably just a bit stressed up.
Good stuff.
Where's... Hello, mate. He's a bit stressed. Alright, I'll give you a shout in a minute. I don't know what's happening. Matt, he ain't well. No. No. Oh yeah, he's with us, yeah. Okay. Dave, you go get Matt's bike? Matt, yeah. Come back along the track and come down round that road. Stress. Put it out quickly. Yeah.
Now going to standby. Time is now 13:26 hours. I'm currently with a member of the hunt, a terrier man here, who's going to tell me about the welfare of the animal.
Well, I think the deer is unfit at the moment, so I think the easiest option is to dispatch it.
Okay. Can you tell me anything about the injuries of the animal?
I think it's just tired by the looks of it. It got caught up in the fence. And it was just, you know, trying to get away out the fence. Which was being caught, the fence is laying in the ditch. There's barbed wire was all round it and sheep netting.
Okay.
So it couldn't get out and it's tired.
So in your opinion, what's the best? The best for the welfare of the animal? Okay. Okay, thanks very much. I'm now going to stand by. Is he with you?
No.
Now going to standby. Okay, now filming. Go ahead. Okay.
Go, 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 go.
Go, let's go, let's go.
Now go and stand by.
Okay, so the next 5-10 minutes, I really just want to run through some of the statement I provided to the court, demonstrating hopefully some insights that animal welfare science can provide to a sort of a case like this. Firstly, deer are wild creatures normally. This one was in close proximity to people. It was vocalising significantly. Wild deer are a prey species. They do not normally remain in the presence of people nor vocalise to that degree unless they're severely distressed and physically unable to fulfil the natural instinct to flee. Looking at the wounds on its abdomen that we saw there briefly, one of the gentlemen put his fingers into one of those wounds briefly. There was about a 4 centimetre wide puncture wound visible in the groin region. Surrounding fur was very matted with fluid and clearly bloodied. Obviously that demonstrates marked recent trauma. Large size of the puncture wound, the amount of bleeding evident, highly consistent with a dog attack. Of course, the other options that were offered there were colliding with a fence, barbed wire in association with a fence. The deer was unable to bear weight on its right hind leg, and this occurred despite the very strong motivation that a wild deer would normally have in this scenario to flee from the proximity of people. Despite the close presence of humans, normally cause any deer capable of doing so to flee, such inability to weight bear indicates a very serious injury. When it's been inflicted from trauma, as in this case, the most likely cause is a fracture. Contrast that with the statement that was made on video earlier on about there are no fractures here by one of the gentlemen. The deer was displaying open-mouthed and rapid breathing, so that indicates a very high level of distress, and given the deer's physical state, the most likely cause of this would have actually been pain that was quite extreme. Most fractures are of course extremely painful. There's a very large number of nerve endings in the membrane surrounding bone which make fractures extremely painful. Now the possible cause would have been extreme fear in the close presence of people who the deer could not escape from given its injuries. This distress and fear would have been expected to be even greater if the deer had been recently subject to an attack. So in summary, the combination of the large puncture wound, bloodied and matted fur, inability to bear weight and flee despite close presence of humans, rapid and open-mouthed breathing, recent history of dogs in the immediate area made it extremely likely these very serious injuries were in fact caused by a violent attack by dogs. It's almost certain that alternate sources such as fence, barbed wire or brambles could not have caused injuries of this nature and this severity. Now, the handling of the deer was inappropriate. Despite its obviously quite severe injuries, it was moved by being lifted by its legs and subsequently hung by its limbs. If there had been a fracture in the area of, say, the right hind femur, this would have been intensely painful. Probably would have added to the deer's injuries, whether through tearing, stretching or weakening of ligaments and muscles or displacement of bones or bony fragments in a fracture site. Would have also worsened the deer's respiratory difficulties. As veterinarians, we know that if there is any patient with respiratory difficulties, it should be placed on its sternum. The second option is on its side, and the worst possible position is actually on its back because it causes the weight of the abdomen to press down on the diaphragm and impedes respiration. So if there is any respiratory compromise or difficulty, the worst thing you can actually do is have an animal on its back. Hanging the animal in this way would have worsened the deer's respiratory difficulties. In another example, a person actually knelt on this deer's chest, which would have not only been very distressing, given the close proximity of a person from whom it could not escape, but would have also have physically interfered with its breathing again. The deer was obviously severely injured. It actually should have been gently approached. The eyes should have been covered to simulate darkness. Noise should have been kept to a minimum. Things should have been kept as calm and quiet as possible. Deer should have been maintained in a natural position, gently covered with an appropriate material to maintain body warmth, whilst awaiting veterinary attention. If movement had been deemed necessary, the deer should have been gently moved into lying on its belly or on its side and perhaps carried out on a stretcher. Instead, medical assessments appear to have been made by a person described in the video as a terrier man, without any reasonable attempt to examine that deer, such as gentle touching around the possible wound site, apparently based on visual examination alone from some distance. This person attributed the deer's obviously distressed state to its being tired and declared it to be unfit, and declared, I think the easiest option is to dispatch it. Whilst it certainly was one of the easiest options, it wasn't necessarily the best option. As you saw, the deer was indeed shot with a captive bolt pistol. The brain of deer is actually quite small. In dispatching any animals with a captive bolt pistol through the skull, it's very important to get the location correct, because if it's not correct, you can inflict a glancing blow or indeed miss the brain entirely and cause very substantial ongoing distress prior to the animal being killed via a second or a third attempt. The locations vary with the species. There are charts showing the correct positioning of captive bolt pistols. They generally use things like the lateral canthus of the eyes and the base of the ears on the opposite sides. They generate a cross on the forehead. There's a certain angle at which the captive bolt pistol should be applied. If the target area is missed, extreme pain and prolonged death can result. To ensure that the correct location has been targeted, death should actually be confirmed properly via a stethoscope and by confirming signs of death such as lack of breathing, reflexes of the pupil in the eye and ocular reflexes. No attempt was made to conduct any such examination as you saw in the video. Instead, only 7 seconds actually, if you time it, after being shot, the deer was once again hung by its legs and moved. If there had been any remaining consciousness at this point, this would have again been extremely distressing for the deer. So in summary, the deer was almost certain to have been subjected to a violent attack by dogs, resulting in those severe injuries that you saw. And instead of being treated humanely, whilst veterinary attention was requested, actually this deer was treated very inhumanely. Inappropriate judgments were made about its condition by a person who had no apparent qualifications for making them. Subsequent actions taken would have been likely to result in further severe distress for this deer prior to its death. So, I think two outcomes demonstrated from this case. One is it did certainly feed into the judgment in this case, in which all 4 of the defendants were actually found to have had a lawful excuse for being on that private property and were all acquitted of trespass. I understand this statement made some contribution. I certainly think it was not the major factor at all in this case, but I understand it was useful. This is the judge's statement. He says, reasonable grounds to believe that for the time being at least you, the defendants, were best placed on the scene to assess the animal's state and what might have been done, if anything, to save it. Different outcome might well have been achieved if you had not, I think, gotten to the scene, I think is what he meant. He finds them all not guilty. The other point that I think is very obvious from this is it really demonstrates that dogs, a pack of dogs, are essentially in roaming mode, in chasing mode, in hunting mode, are difficult to control. Not only pose a danger to foxes if they do catch up with them, but obviously they pose quite a danger to wildlife as well. There have actually been a number of cases like this where wild animals, deer and other wild animals, have been attacked, presumably unintentionally, by hunts and injured. So I think it really demonstrates the danger that some of these packs propose to wild animals as well as the target animals, as it were. And it's quite concerning to think about what might have occurred perhaps if there had been a hiker in that forest, if there had been a hiker with a child in that forest. We've seen quite enough cases of dog attacks of children in urban areas in London and in other urban areas. Those are generally single dogs with a child. When a dog is operating in pack mode, the psychology does change. They do become a little bit more in hunting mode than they would otherwise be quite commonly. And I think this really does pose a good example of the dangers, certainly to wildlife at least.